In this video, we're going to look at some helpful software that we're going to be using in this course when working with our Drupal site. So there isn't a lot of software that you need to work with Drupal, but there are certain things that you definitely need and some that might just be a little bit helpful and nice to have around. So first of all, of course, you'll need a web browser. In our case, we'll be using Firefox with a plugin called Firebug. You will need a text editor when we start looking at editing some of the Drupal files. You'll need a file transfer application for moving your files from your computer up to your server. And to work with the database that backs Drupal, you're going to need a database manager of some kind if you're not comfortable with MySQL on the command line. And then finally, we'll see a little bit of working with Drush, which is the Drush shell. Let's go into a little more detail on each of these. So first up is Firefox, the web browser. You can get that at getfirefox.com. You can use Drupal, of course, with any web browser. I happen to be using Firefox in my demonstrations in this course because I'll be using Firebug, which is a plugin that lets you inspect HTML, look at HTTP requests, inspect CSS styles, a whole bunch of stuff. Basically anything in front-end web development or web design, Firebug can help you with. It's really great. Next up is the text editors. So I'm going to give you several options for these. I'm using a Mac, and my preferred text editor is BBEdit. I've been using it for a long time and find it to be really handy. If you would rather not pay for a text editor, the same company makes an editor called Text Wrangler. And with these text editors, it's important not to use something that tries to insert any formatting or anything. You want to be working in plain text. And both of these editors do a very nice job on the Mac. There are some other options that are cross-platform as well. One relatively new one is called Sublime Text. This is available for the Mac, for Windows, and for Unix-based operating systems. And it's quite good. It's relatively new, as I say, but it's very fast and it has a lot of very nice features. You can check that out at sublimetext.com. And then, of course, if you like Adobe products, you can use Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver is much more than a text editor. It's, of course, also a WYSIWYG web editor, and it can edit all kinds of website files, but it does have a very competent text editor built in that is more than appropriate for working with code. Next up is the file transfer applications that we'll be using to move files between your computer and the server. Again, I'm using a Mac, and a very nice option that I like is Transmit by Panic. A free option is CyberDuck. These are both Mac applications. If you're using Windows, another option is WinSCP. This is not used for general FTP. So if your web host only supports vanilla FTP, WinSCP will not work. But if you have the option, it's much better to use something like SFTP or SSH, which are secure file transfer protocols that WinSCP supports. If you need something more general and you use Windows, FileZilla is a perfectly competent free option. Next up is database managers. A very, very popular one is PHPMyAdmin. It is a web application. It's written in PHP, and indeed, it comes pre-installed with almost every web hosting account. So if you have web hosting, odds are you'll have access to PHPMyAdmin, but if you want to install it yourself, you can get it from phpmyadmin.net. If you prefer an option that runs natively on your desktop, MySQL offers MySQL Workbench. You can check that out on their website. And then finally, Drush. Drush is sort of in its own category. Drush stands for Drupal Shell, and you can find installation instructions for it on drupal.org/project/drush and documentation for it on drush.ws or drush.org. So Drush is definitely not mandatory for working with Drupal. But if you have access to the command line and you're relatively comfortable with it, it can be a tremendous boon. It can help you back up your websites. It can help you update them, all from the command line and all very fast. It's really great. Love it. So that is an overview of some of the software that we will be using in this course and some that you might want to get your hands on in order to work with Drupal a little more efficiently.